News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And a very good morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And a wonderful morning to you. Of course, Sri Lanka awakes to the absolutely shocking news of the number of telephone calls made by key members connected to the so-called Bondgate scandal. And there was one particular member who had made Sujiva Senasinghe and Arjuna Mahendran of Perpetual Treasury's fame shared 63 telephone calls during the period that the COPE sessions were in play. And to discuss the effects on good governance and other slightly wider matters is Maithree Gunarathne. Very good morning to you.
Morning, Faraz.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
The circumstances could have been better, of course. How do you react? Did you watch the information all in one go, or did it filter to you over the evening yesterday?
Filtered to me over the evening yesterday.
And we spoke about Sujiva Senasinghe, 63 telephone calls between him and Arjuna Mahendran, vice versa, that way, the total calls, 63. This, of course, is the Member of Parliament who was sort of imported into the COPE committee after another member of their own party resigned, and Sujiva Senasinghe was there. He also is the person who authored a book on the bond.
On the bond scam.
On the bond scam. And Atta was, if I recall the name of the title. And yesterday in Parliament, Mr. Senasinghe went, for want of a better word, ballistic, when I think it was Nama Rajapaksa mentioned about the telephone calls, although Nama was under-informed. I would like to say as usual, but anyway, he was under-informed because he got the numbers wrong. But we're not going to argue about that. I think he said 42, there was 63. The point is that what does this all convey? There was 707 calls, Maithree, the sum total of the calls between Mr. Karunanayake, Ravi, the former finance minister, his wife, and Arjuna Mahendran. On average, this means that they spoke every day, almost every day, over a 2-year period. I mean, what does this all convey? Over 3,000 telephone calls.
For us, I think, the people of this country are convinced that this was one of the biggest robberies which have taken place.
Yeah.
So it is not surprising that so many telephone calls have been made.
Yeah.
But for Honorable Mr. Sujiva Senasinghe, he may have had to make the telephone calls to write the book. Right. He may have had to get instructions and various other details.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
He may be having a defense.
Indeed.
Because writing a book, you need to get information from the central bank, maybe the central bank governor, and what has taken place.
Yeah.
So that, of course, I think he may have a defense.
Indeed.
But the others, where Mr. Ravi Karunanayake and the others are concerned, I don't think they stand a chance of a snowball in hell.
Or do you think that Ravi K, I don't want to say RK because he said he didn't know who RK was.
Yeah.
Right, so Ravi K, Karu, he said some people call him Karu. Okay, so Karu, perhaps he was forwarding up and keeping in touch on a daily basis with Arjuna Mahendran, virtually a daily basis.
Yes.
Okay, perhaps because he was the Minister of Finance, he was worried about what on earth this bond was doing to the economy.
Well, that's a very, very lame excuse to put forward.
If it is put forward.
If it is put forward, facts speak for themselves.
Yeah.
The very fact that monies were given to him to buy this apartment or penthouse or whatever.
Well, it was dumped. The money was dumped in the chairman's safe at a business that he was connected to at some point.
That's right. So, with all those, all that evidence glaring at the face, one would expect, Ravi Karunanayake, of course, did the correct thing. He had to go, he went.
Yes.
But the question is
and
now...
that's absolutely remarkable.
That's remarkable. Yeah. That's remarkable. But the question is for us, the other guys who are connected to this.
Yes.
Now there are so many other
Right.
members.
Over 3,000 phone calls.
3,000 phone calls, including the Prime Minister.
Yes, I mean, I suppose in the heat of the moment, and you're the new boys on the block, and after the first bond, Arjuna Mahendran having reached the sort of pinnacle of his career in banking, and as the newly appointed governor of a sovereign nation, right? The governor of Sri Lanka, of the Bank of Ceylon,
Not being a citizen of Sri Lanka.
of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, not being a citizen, but of course with his roots here, we grant him all that. And in the heat of the moment, in the flourish of excitement, he made a call. Not one, not two, but three. To the Prime Minister, and one was only 1 second because the line was cut apparently. And anyway, and he returns the call as well. And the Prime Minister's explanation apparently, we're told, was that he was told by the governor that they had been successful in raising over 10 billion rupees. That's a fairly rational explanation. And we can, there's nothing, any liberal-minded person won't be. But then I have to pose this question to you. We were also treated with the information that Arjuna Aloysius's telephone and the Prime Minister's telephone connected to each other 5 times. Now what does that say? Is he phoning up and saying, "Uncle, I took up 5 billion, Uncle"? I mean, what about the other primary dealers?
Yeah.
The state institutions and the standalone PDs?
No, for us the rationale or the bottom of the line situation is the conduct of all these public officials are appalling. Right? It is appalling. And if this is the manner in which the highest of the land are conducting themselves with regard to public affairs,
yes.
I mean, God help this country.
God help us indeed.
Right? And you can see within this last 2 years how much corruption has set in by these very people who said that they are going to fight and eradicate it.
Yes.
Right? So therefore, I mean, this goes without saying. I, of course, feel it is time for the President to remove anyone who has been involved in this process, because they can ultimately interfere with the final investigation, because this bond commission is a fact-finding commission, right, which will ultimately be, which will lead to some kind of criminal case.
Yes.
So therefore, it is better for everyone's or for good governance sake to remove all these people from their positions, including the Prime Minister. Because I feel he is the main culprit in this whole affair, because he is the one who appointed Arjuna Mahendran, he is the one who protected Arjuna Mahendran, he is the one who wanted to continuously keep Arjuna Mahendran. If not for his time period lapsing in 2016, he would have still been the governor of the central bank.
Indeed.
Right? And if that had happened for us, none of this evidence would have surfaced. Right? They would have seen to it that many more telephone calls fell into swimming pools.
Indeed.
Right? Many more files would have gone missing. Right? So in the interest of a clean investigation and finding as to who are the people who are responsible for this, I think all these people should be got rid of at the moment. And once the inquiry is done and once the case is over, then people can decide. But as it is, none should be kept there, including the Prime Minister of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka.
And history is in the making right now, where on Monday we're told that the Prime Minister of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka will attend and subject himself to cross-examination.
Yes, that is the...
It is the first time ever in the history of this country that a serving Prime Minister will attend a sort of a judicial process. Not a court, but a judicial process.
It's a quasi-judicial process.
It's a quasi-judicial process. But Maithree Gunarathne, surely in any other democracy, what would have happened to these people? What would have happened to the Prime Minister?
No, there is a perception that Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe is a democrat. You know, he's a true gentleman,
Yeah.
and he's above board.
Yeah. I'd like to believe that that is the case.
That is the perception.
Right.
But for us, I think we saw through him long time ago,
Yeah.
and we were in the process of exposing him. He's none of them. He's not a democrat. He's not a gentleman, and you can see what he has done with the bond scam, right? So my respected view is that he cannot serve. He should resign honorably, like what Ravi Gunarathne did.
That's right. Why should only
Ravi Gunarathne?
Actually, I have some sympathy, though professionally I would not have advised. But Miss Gunarathne actually wrote an article which was carried out by one of the websites and said, "Why only my father?" Well, I think I understood her line, but it came out slightly differently. But indeed, why only Ravi K?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, he at the end of the day, however much he denied and went down fighting, he did the honourable thing.
Not only that, for us now for instance, now you take the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Now, Ravi Gunarathne resigns from his position as Finance Minister because of this bond issue.
Yes. Yeah.
Having done that, where does he go and end?
Indeed.
He goes into Temple Trees.
Yes.
He's given various positions at Temple Trees.
Yeah.
He's put into the UNP nomination boards.
Yeah.
He's put in for UNP reorganization, right? And he's being made use of by the UNP leadership to carry support for this coming election.
Indeed.
So now, what does this type of conduct show?
It appears to me that the Prime Minister is shoving him down the throats of the people.
Not only that, the Prime Minister is protecting him.
Yes.
Now,
But must he protect him?
no, so that is the point. Any reasonable, prudent man will have to think about.
Yeah.
Why should he protect him? Now, normally for us, if there is some person who has done something which is shameful,
Yeah.
I mean, how much is your friend? You will not want to meet him in public and be seen in public, especially if you are a politician.
Yes. Yes.
Right, because I mean, it can bring various negative thoughts to the other people. I mean, if we'll say someone is associating with a criminal, openly associating with a criminal.
Yes.
Now, for instance, there was a recent IGP was in a nightclub. I mean, there was an accusation
right.
that he was meditating during day and having wine during the night.
But with some controversial character.
With some controversial character. Now, moment that is brought out, I mean, there is a perception among the public that this guy is, all dealing with the underworld, or it's not good. So the same thing applies here.
Of course.
The same thing applies here. Yeah. So when moment he resigns from being the best finance minister in the world,
yes, in this region. This region,
yeah. And he has to go home in one of the biggest scandals in this country. Yeah. He is invited to Temple Trees, that is the Prime Minister's official residence. Yeah. He is given an office there, and he starts working from there. What does it infer?
But it infers protectionism.
Yeah.
But it also instantly, in my mind, springs this thing about an abuse of power, an abuse of process. There is the Temple Trees is maintained by the people of this country for the Prime Minister, not for party purposes. Not for party purposes. And sorry, Mr. Prime Minister, you can say what you like, but that is the fact. And don't try and wriggle out of it by saying that he's an advisor to you. And in that case, are you going to have people who are involved or who are accused of corruption as your advisors? And is this why, Maithree, I want to say this to you, is this why that we've had 3 presidents from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, and it is becoming increasingly clear, as it has been for the last 23 years, that as long as Ranil Wickremesinghe is the leader of the United National Party, there will not be a president from the United National Party.
You're perfectly correct. You're perfectly correct.
This
we have said for the last so many years. We have been removed and sacked from the party for having said this.
Yes.
But Faraz, you're perfectly correct.
And there are other spineless men out there who continue to support this leader. His record is one of abysmal failure.
Definitely, definitely.
You know, it's time that this champagne lifestyle of this failed leader comes to an end.
And I hope that with this bond scam that he will have to go home.
Well, I hope he does, and it's not very far from Temple Trees.
I don't think for us he's a guy who will ever give up his position if by choice.
But Tilak Marapana resigns only to be brought back as the foreign minister in the currency of the same parliament.
Definitely, definitely.
What does it?
So it only goes to show what respect he has for the democratic process. Here, a guy resigns on one of the corruption scandals before the bond scam.
Yes.
At least one must give 100 marks to Mr. Tilak Marapana. The mere mention of his name and it coming out, he resigns.
Indeed.
He was not dragged in and like RK
yes.
After giving evidence and coming out so badly at the commission. Even to resign, he had to take a little time.
Now, for all those very, very wide-angled supporters and liberal-minded supporters of Mr. Wickremesinghe and his leadership of this United National Party, we have to pose this question: what did Mr. Wickremesinghe do as the minister in charge of the subject of the central bank? Something that he was responsible for splitting up, because it was always with the Ministry of Finance. He didn't want to give that to Ravi K.
Yeah.
Right? And so he split the Ministry of Finance into three. One part to Kabir Hashim, another to Ravi K, and he kept for himself the central bank and the regulatory process.
So all this for us falls in line when you take the sequence of events and how it has been planned from the very inception. That is.
So if this is a criminal case, are you saying that this is premeditated?
Premeditated.
We're about to go for a break, but before that, I'd like to say some of these things, some of the messages we've got. One says that they like you because you're a lawyer and it's lawyer speak, and so it's refreshing.
Thank you.
Another says sheer arrogance is what is on Ranil Wickremesinghe's part. It's like Nero fiddling whilst Rome burnt down.
Not only arrogance, he has contempt for the people of this country. It is not only arrogance. He thinks that he has been born to rule and deceive the people of this country. It's not only arrogance, it's arrogance, but he has contempt for the people of this country. This is
contempt. I like that word. I think that's probably
because otherwise,
apt
having come to that position for us, no one would act in such an irresponsible manner.
Indeed. And just as we go to the break, I'll better read one of these out, because please note, RK has not been proved guilty by law, so do not come to your own conclusions. We're not. We're merely debating the pros and cons. In the meantime, don't go away. We're going to go for a short break. After all, this is Newsline. And welcome back to Newsline, where we're joined this morning by Mr. Maithree Gunarathne. Now then, Mr. Gunarathne, we've got very, very many questions. Thank you for sending them in. Do keep sending them. Of what value will be the Prime Minister's affidavit if he refuses to subject himself to cross-examination, or if the Attorney General's counsel does not cross-examine him? And that is from Kandy.
Yeah, if an affidavit is, if there is no cross-examination, then the affidavit is of no use, because cross-examination is what elicits the truth.
Indeed.
And for whatever he has stated in the affidavit, it is only when you cross-examine and confront with various documentation and various incidents that you can get what where he has lied in the affidavit.
Indeed.
So if he is not cross-examined, then affidavit is of no use.
And the other thing is, I think the members of the public are rather put out, because if he had been asked these questions at the commission premises itself,
Yes.
then the public would have known what
Yeah.
the questions were
Yeah.
and what the answers were.
That's right.
As it is, we don't know, other than the very limited things that are being said at the commission of inquiry. I think that's not on.
No,
There may be a process, but that's still...
there is a process for us where you can give evidence, your evidence in chief by affidavit in civil matters.
Right.
Now, a case like this,
Yeah.
where the Prime Minister is involved,
Yeah.
and where it is a national corruption issue,
Yeah.
where by virtue of their position,
Yeah.
they can see that evidence disappears.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think it was the most prudent thing to do to call for an affidavit from him.
Yeah.
Because moment you call for an affidavit and moment you have you give him the bearings as to what is
it's
expected
very
from
focused,
him.
yeah.
It is very focused, and then they can tamper the evidence or their story to suit that kind of situation.
What you're saying is concoct the evidence.
Concoct the evidence. So
Under oath.
Under oath. No. So that's the thing. Cross-examination now is mandatory.
Yeah.
Is mandatory.
So wasn't this like, it sounds to me, there are so many questions. One question is, I should have asked you whether you know who RK is.
Yeah, RK is Ravi Gunarathne
From time immemorial, you know that.
RK. Or Ravi K. It's simple as that.
Right. Why can't the UNP working committee throw the Prime Minister out, the leader?
No,
of
the
party?
UNP working committee will never throw the Prime Minister out. The Prime Minister appoints the working committee appoints the Prime Minister. So it's a beautiful relationship there. And whatever the Prime Minister says, the UNP working committee will listen.
So would you consider, is there a parallel between the Queen of England and Ranil Wickremesinghe? Is he the Queen here?
No, he thinks he's the king in the UNP.
Yeah.
And I think the working committee also allows him to believe that he's the king, because they endorse whatever he wants and whatever he does. And this working committee for the last maybe 20 years has only seen defeat of the UNP at every election.
Yeah. The fact that the Prime Minister was allowed to, that they invoked these other regulations to permit him to ask him the questions and then for him to send a reply in the form of an affidavit, does that sound like a cover-up?
It's not a cover-up. I don't think the procedure is all that right for us.
Right.
I do the procedure.
My only point about this is that the public are not aware. So at least they should have put it out. They should have said, okay, here's a handout, and given it to the media, because of the media who conveys it, and said, here are the questions, here are his answers, this is what he said.
No, for us. Now, if you followed the Bond Commission from the very inception,
yes,
most of the people were called, evidence was led, and they were cross-examined.
Yeah.
So why are they having different types of standards for different people? Aren't all human beings equal before the law?
Yeah.
Why isn't those principles carried out? So here it is very, very clear that some people are more equal than others.
That's how it seems to me.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, this Bond Commission they have done an excellent job in exposing all this. But when you give preferential treatment to VIPs or very important people, or people like the Prime Minister, the ministers, and for instance Kabir Hashim and Malik Samaravikrama.
Right.
There again the chairman and the general secretary of the UNP.
Indeed.
They were brought before the commission. So can you see the magnitude in which this UNP is involved in this in the corruption process?
Arjuna Mahendran said, and several times, including on state television, he never accepted invitations to come onto our network for an interview, but nevertheless he was quoted in the press. He was also on national television on one of the state-owned channels, and he always maintained that he did nothing wrong. Be that as it may,
Yeah.
wonderful words used by Lasantha Wickramatunge, who would have absolutely enjoyed this story. But, 26 calls made by Arjuna Mahendran, Governor Central Bank, to Kasun Palisena, CEO Perpetual Treasuries, a licensed primary dealer.
Dealer.
And in that same period of time, that wonderful SI who was in charge of this aspect of the investigation revealed that in that same period of time, whilst he made 26 telephone calls to the one primary dealership's CEO, he did not make even one call to the other 14 or 15 primary dealers and or their CEOs. Not one. Now, that in itself throws out, in the most liberal-minded person's mind, a huge question mark.
Oh, yes.
And it's a question mark that appears to be a question mark that cannot be seen by our Prime Minister.
Definitely. Definitely.
And there are so many questions, there are so many questions here. The people are asking what will happen. There is a genuine concern that one more time, the people of this country are going to lose out financially.
Oh, definitely.
This has been described by one of the members of the AG's team as perhaps the greatest financial scam ever to afflict the people of Sri Lanka since independence.
Definitely for us. I don't know whether in this region, whether there has been such a financial scam where from the Prime Minister downwards, the main ruling party, all the top officials of the main ruling party, the senior ministers in the cabinet, deputy ministers in the cabinet have got involved in such a big
We've got about 3 or 4 minutes now. Can you tell me, Maithree, doesn't the working committee members who are supportive of the Prime Minister, because obviously he appointed them, and then looks after them,
yes,
right? Throws crumbs at them, is how I can describe it. Do you think that we should name all these people and shame them?
Oh, definitely.
Because they are, at the end of the day, they are responsible for
keeping him there.
For keeping him there and for reducing the once great United National Party to its knees.
Definitely. That should be done, because otherwise...
So much on their knees that they have to go and search for other people to front them to the presidency.
I mean, that has happened on 2 occasions.
That's right.
That has happened on 2 occasions. So what I'm saying is your suggestion with regard to naming and shaming is a very, very good thing, because they are the people who are indirectly sitting upon the ruination of this country and this government, which we bought with great difficulty in 2015.
Yes.
I mean, October, November 2014, no one thought that the Rajapaksa administration could be defeated. But that happened, and with great difficulty. Having done that for us now, within these 1.5 years to 2 years, I want to say that I think the corruption is much more than the Rajapaksa administration during these, when you take these 2.5 years to 3 years.
In proportionate terms.
In proportionate terms, at least I must say, during the Rajapaksa regime, they did some work. I mean, they worked and they robbed. These masters are not working; they are just only robbing.
Exactly. The level of debt has increased by 2,200 billion, which is 2.2 trillion rupees in the currency of this government.
Right.
And just very quickly, because we're in the last minute, very quickly, could you tell me what will happen if the hypothetical position that the president asks and then removes the Prime Minister?
He doesn't need to ask anyone.
Yeah.
He can ask him to go.
Yeah.
And the honorable thing is for him to go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the president has all the powers to remove him.
Right, but what will happen to the unity government?
No, so the president can call upon another member of the UNP who is not corrupt, who has been clean, to become the Prime Minister and go ahead with the...
so it doesn't necessarily mean the end of the partnership?
No. He, president, can call another senior member of the UNP to come and take the position of the Prime Ministership, and the government can still continue. There is absolutely no problem in doing that for us.
So there's absolutely no problem.
Yes.
There are various questions, including one viewer who's asking me how he or she can send me documents. I'll give you a call when the program's over, and I'll tell you how you can do that. But you know where we are. We are here at Dorset Street, the more popularly known as the Sirisa Studios, the Capital Maharaja head office. We're right next door to that wonderful establishment, and we are all ever ready to receive your documents and to look through them. It doesn't mean that when you send us documents we blindly go out and start shouting. We do investigate every single one of them. And right from the beginning, I'd like to remind you that when we started reporting on the bond in March 2015, all the time we've only, this story is not about the UNP or about Sujiva Sena Singh or Ravi K or the Prime Minister or Arjuna Mahendran or Arjuna Aloysius or Saman Kumara or Mr. Samarasiri or all those people, too many to mention, including Mr. Padmanathan, who's going to court, and then now it's been revealed that he's been telephoning Arjun from the PDD during working time, right? But this story is not about all that. This story is about a complete departure from established procedure. That is the story. Mr. Kirialla, it applies to you too. And that's the story. Right from day one, this government have embarked on a systematic method of ignoring established procedure. And Maithree Gunarathne, I'll leave this last question to you. What happens, tell me, Maithree Gunarathne, when you depart from established procedure?
Anarchy, as what has happened in this country, financial corruption to the magnitude that no one has seen before.
Shocking. But that's the way it is on Newsline today. Thank you very much,
Thanks.
And that's about it. We look forward to reporting more and more. And if you really want some experience of where your tax rupees are working and how they're working, get your national ID card out and go to Housedorf on Monday, where you'll see history being made, if the Prime Minister turns up. Take care. God bless.
Thank you.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.